had a punch walk, and I'm like, I'm not missing a punch walk.
Okay, are we ready to get started? All right. Good morning. There's nothing better to starting your Independence Day celebration than a city planning commission. So welcome, everybody. Commissioners, look forward to hearing your case. As we understand, every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. Our meeting will follow the advertised docket, and we'll hear the cases in the order they are listed, beginning with the consent agenda, followed by the regular docketed items. The commissioners believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is virtual and recorded, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations and 20 minutes for the applicant, plus any questions by the commissioners. When we move to public comment, we call on those who have joined us in person first, followed by those who have joined us virtually. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes when speaking as an individual or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or larger group. Please be brief and limit repetitive comments. Those of you who are joining us virtually, please be ready to go when it's your turn to speak. Have your video camera turned on and your screen name correctly displayed. This helps us make sure we get your testimony for the record. So as we get started, I ask staff to provide the additional ground rules and instructions as we conduct this meeting. So Sarah?
Thank you. I'll describe the testimony procedures for our hybrid meeting today. First, for those joining us online, please know that there are 2 categories of people participating in the meeting, attendees and panelists. Right now, the only panelists are the commission members and city staff. If you are an applicant or a member of the public who would like to testify regarding a case, please use the raise hand function when the case is announced to let staff know you would like to speak. There is a ribbon at the bottom of your Zoom screen with a hand icon. Please click this to raise your hand to request to speak on a case. You will need to accept a promotion to panelist in order to speak. It may appear temporarily as if you have been disconnected, but don't panic, you will reconnect shortly. If you are calling in on a phone line, your screen name appears as your phone number. You can raise your hand to speak when the case is called by pressing star followed by the number 9. When you are promoted to panelist, the chair would like for you to turn on your camera so that the commission can see you when it is your time to speak. Your microphone needs to always be on mute unless you are giving testimony at the appropriate time. When you are called upon, you will be able to share your screen to display exhibits. The chat box is only for questions about the agenda. Merits of each case should not be discussed in the chat box. For those joining us today in person, applicants may be seated at the center desk when the case is announced. Members of the public who would like to speak may approach the microphone on the podium when the chair calls for public testimony. If you are in person, there is no need for you to be on the Zoom meeting as well. Joining the meeting in both manners causes a lot of unnecessary feedback and audio disruptions. Please keep on silent or mute all of your electronic devices and be quiet when entering and exiting the hearing room. The Commission has established time limits for all testimony during the meeting. You will be given 2 minutes to testify when speaking as an individual, or 5 minutes if you represent an organization such as a neighborhood association, HOA, CID, or business association. Those are all of our procedures.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with the consent agenda items, and please note, let's hold docket item C3 until we have another commissioner, because I have to recuse from that.
Yes, so our consent docket today is item C1, case CD CPC 2025-73, a request to approve a project plan in District B4-3 to allow for the construction of a hotel on about 3 acres, generally located at North Ambassador Drive and North Polo Drive. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Item C2 is case CD CPC 2025-71, a request to approve an MPD final plan to allow for a lodging establishment in District MPD on about 28.54 acres, generally located at East Front Street and Interstate 29. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Item C4 is case CLD Final Plat 2025-16, a request to approve a final plat in District MPD on about 4 acres generally located at the northeast corner of Berkeley Plaza and Berkeley Parkway, allowing for the creation of 2 lots and 1 tract for a mixed-use development. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Item C5 is case CLD Final Plat 2025-14, A request to approve a final plat in District R 7.5 on about 41 acres, generally located on the west side of Lee Summit Road, approximately 590 feet south of S Road, to allow for the creation of 4 residential lots. Staff recommends approval with conditions. And item C6 is case CLD Final Plat 2025-8, a request to approve a final plat in District R80 on about 10 acres, generally located at 9640 North Indiana Avenue, creating 2 residential lots. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items C1, C2, C4, C5, or C6?
No.
Okay, let's open it for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding the consent agenda items, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
We do have a hand raised online from Jennifer Tedrick,
Okay,
waiting. Oh, the hand has been lowered, so no hands
Okay.
raised online.
very good. All right, then we'll go ahead and close public testimony. And if there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve docket items C1, C2, C4, C5, and C6 as stated in the docket.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda items, less C3. So Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Harkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
All right, looks like that motion passes. Never thought you'd be at the end of the alphabet with an E. Okay, let's go to our regular docketed items, beginning with those that are looking to be continued to a future date.
Our continuances start with item number 5, it's case CD SUP 2025-18, a request to approve a special use permit in District R6 on about 0.125 acres, generally located at 4843 Woodland, to allow for neighborhood serving retail in an existing building. Staff requests continuance without fee to August 20th. That's a change from your docket. That was an incorrect date. And item number 6 is case CD SUP 2025-19, a request to approve a special use permit acting as a preliminary plat for a school located in districts R 0.5 and R 1.5 on about 13.31 acres, generally located north of East Meyer Boulevard to the west of Research Medical Hospital. Staff requests continuance without fee to July 16th.
All right. Any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items 5 or 6? All right, let's open it up for public testimony. If anybody out there would like to discuss the continuance of docket items 5 or 6, please raise your hand or come forward and you'll be called upon. Nobody, huh? So, all right, so we'll close public testimony and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to continue docket item 5 without fee to August 20th and to continue docket item 6 without fee to July 16th.
Second.
Motion and a second for continuance of docket items 5 and 6. Margaret, please take roll call on that motion, please.
Harkin,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
I'm sorry,
You messed up too.
I did. Beasley
Aye.
and Enders.
Aye.
Got him. Okay, so it looks like the motion passes. All right, let's move to docket item number 1, please.
Docket item 1.1 is case CD CPC 2025-68, a request to approve an area plan amendment to the SWOPE area plan from residential low density to mixed-use neighborhood on about 1.61 acres, generally located at the southeast corner of East 81st Terrace and the Paseo. And docket item 1.2 is case CD CPC 2025-67, a request to approve a rezoning without plan from District R-6/PO to District B1-2/PO on about 1.61 acres, generally located at the southeast corner of East 81st Terrace and the Paseo.
All right, good morning. Larissa Chambi, City Planning and Development. This is the area plan and rezoning for 8129 the Paseo. Let me make sure it's sharing. Okay. This is the subject location. It's located in the Marlboro Heights neighborhood. And then just an overview of the site. The application is for these 4 properties highlighted in yellow. The current use of, or the previous use of the site was the New Zion Missionary Baptist Church. You can see that the drive and associated parking goes across those lot lines onto the 3 southern parcels as well. This is the current zoning. You can see that this corner portion of the lot is along the Paseo and East 81st Terrace. That's that B3-2/PO, our pedestrian overlay. And then the back half of the building goes into the R-6/PO, part of that pedestrian overlay zoning district as well. And then these southern 3 are located in the R-6 zoning district. So just highlighted, trying to use some different colors to highlight the differences. The applicant is proposing to rezone the entirety of the top portion of the subject properties to B1-2/PO and the bottom 3 properties to B1-2. The accompanying area plan amendment for the SWOPE area plan is shown here. So that red highlighted property, and then you can see that mixed-use neighborhood on the corner portion of the property, and then, of course, the residential low density on the back half. And then the applicant is proposing to amend the area plan to mixed-use neighborhood for all 4 lots. We will go through the criteria. It does comply with all of them, but I did want to specify B, the zoning and the use of the nearby properties, that B1-2 rezoning would allow to create a buffer between the more commercial aspects along the Paseo and the residential properties to the east. Whether public facilities and infrastructure services will be adequate to serve the development. They are existing and there's no impact that's proposed with the proposed use. And then G, if the extent to which approving the rezoning will detrimentally affect nearby properties. As I said, that rezoning to a B1 will act as a buffer to the surrounding neighborhood. And so here are some pictures looking at the site. This is what it looks like currently from the Paseo, and then just from the corner of Paseo and East 81st. And you can see some more commercial uses down the road as well. And with that, staff recommends approval without conditions for both the area plan amendment and the rezoning. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for city staff?
No.
Okay, let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Camila Janaid, and I'm the director and owner of Each One Teach One Learning Center. So the purpose of us getting this property rezoned is because I'm going to be opening up another childhood program. And like I stated, if I didn't, it's called Each One Teach One Learning Center. And our plan is to open up as soon as this is accomplished. But we serve already on Prospect. I have a location off of 72nd and Prospect, so this would be my second location. My license will serve 99 students is the goal, and that's why I'm here. So anyone have any questions? I serve our services for 6 weeks through school age 2.
Oh, okay. Any questions for the applicant? Ms. Beasley?
I was writing a note. So your current location on Prospect, you're going to maintain both of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Same programming?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, so at this time, let's open it up for any public testimony. So if there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 1.1 or 1.2, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature or come forward and you'll be called upon.
We do have a hand raised online from Marlboro Community Coalition.
Okay.
They're reconnecting as panelists.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Diane Hirschberger. I'm the Executive Director of the Marlboro Community Coalition, and I am here to speak in support of these changes. We are welcoming Each One Teach One into our community again. a second location. And this specific property has been a challenge. And each one teach one has found the greatest use that we could think of in a childcare desert. And the quality of what they have done in their building rehabilitation in both locations demonstrates to us that they have already been, but intend to continue to be a good neighbor.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised online.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
All right, with that, we'll close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, I move to approve docket items 1.1 and 1.2 without conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items 1.1 and 1.2. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Well, it looks like the motion passes. Thank you very much and appreciate you bringing it in. Good luck. All right, let's move on to docket items 2.1 and 2.2, please.
Docket item 2.1 is case CD CPC 2025-70, a request to approve a rezoning from districts AGR and B3-3 to B3-3 on about 2 acres generally located at the southeast corner of Northwest Berry Road and Interstate 29, allowing for the creation of a car wash. And item 2.2 is case CD CPC 2025-66, a request to approve a major amendment to an existing development plan in District B3-3 on about 2 acres generally located at the southeast corner of Northwest Berry Road and Interstate 29, allowing for the creation of a car wash.
Good morning, Matthew Barnes, City Planning and Development. Here with docket item number 2, which is a development plan and rezoning for the club car wash on Berry Road. Okay, this site is located in the Northland just east of I-29 and along Berry Road there, which is south of 152. Here is a closer view of that subject site. You can see the site highlighted in yellow. Zona Rosa is to the northwest. The AMC Theater is to the southeast. And then Berry Road runs east-west at this location. Here is an existing view of the site. It is the former On the Border Mexican restaurant that has since closed. That view is from Berry Road. This view is from I-29, showing the same vacant building that was originally constructed as a macaroni grill. They are proposing rezoning with this as well. The former restaurant was split zoned, half AGR and half B3-2. AGR is an agriculture residential district, and a lot of I-29 is zoned this. So just bringing this site into conformance, B3-2 is the zoning of the entire development there. That includes the Chick-fil-A, Chili's, AMC, and that strip center there too. So they are proposing a major amendment to the previously approved development plan. The current controlling plan only permits a restaurant on this location. They are proposing a car wash. They did work with staff to add additional queuing and move the building from the center of the site over to the eastern side of the site to act as a buffer visually and for sound to the existing restaurant, which is the Chili's. And I will have a better view of the site plan on the next slide. I know it's kind of small, but circulation will enter on at the south west corner there, go north along Berry, and then through the tunnel, and then internally to the vacuums to hopefully conceal that from the adjacent properties. And here is a view. North is on the right side of the screen there. You can see the Chili's at the south side, car wash tunnel there, and then vacuums in the middle and queuing in the center. And they are providing more than the required amount of queuing, which is 80 feet for a drive-through. They're providing 2 lanes of 220 feet approximately. Here's just the elevations. They're using masonry materials The elevation towards Chili's has the glass to enhance that facade. And with that, staff recommends approval of the rezoning and approval with conditions of the major amendment to a development plan, and I can answer any questions.
Yeah, so moving the building to the east is more to provide a buffer between all the queuing of vehicles and the vacuums with
Yes.
the restaurant? Okay.
Correct.
And on this one, how come elevation plans aren't provided?
So, in the second submittal, for some reason, the elevations were dropped, but I noticed that this morning that they were out of the plan, but they did provide it on their second submittal. Third submittal, for some reason, did not have those. But they did provide the elevations in a previous submittal.
Are these, I mean, I guess I'll ask the applicant when we talk here, but are they available to view here?
Yes.
Just like to know kind of what it looks like to neon lighting or colors or anything like that.
Here. Share my screen again. Oh, geez. These are the elevations.
Okay.
The masonry materials, and then this bottom one is the one that is towards Chili's with the
And the vacuums and everything would have a similar color scheme to this?
yes, yep.
Any other questions for staff?
I'm not clear on how they're coming in and out.
So there is an entrance right here along Roan Ridge Road. They enter on that side and will go through circulation along Berry and then through the tunnel and then to the tunnel vacuums.
So there's no entrance off of Berry Roads into this development.
Correct.
Correct.
So where is Chili's on this?
It's to
I'll go back to that one you were showing me how they come in. Where's
okay.
Chili's on
It's
that?
over here
Okay,
to the east.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? All right, let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Morning. My name's Eric Kirchner. I'm with Cochran Engineering, here representing Club Car Wash today. The site that we're talking about the official address is 8340 Northwest Roan Ridge Road. The site's 1.74 acres, and we're using 2 access points to get onto Northwest Roan Ridge Road, which are existing access points that are there. One of them is specifically on this property, and the other one's a shared access with Chili's. So we have a cross access with Chili's as well. The building that's being proposed is 5,164 square feet. We're providing 24 self-serve vacuums, and we have 9 parking spaces for employees and with 1 ADA space. All of the vacuums, trash receptacles, lights, all that would be black in color to kind of go with the color scheme of the building. Landscape plan that we provided to the city staff, as Matthew mentioned, we worked with the staff to beef that up a little bit to give extra buffering from the roadways. We do have a trash enclosure in the southwest portion of the site, which would be masonry to match the building. Operating hours for this facility are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sundays. All the vacuum stations have trash receptacles that are emptied on a regular basis and taken to the trash enclosure. The cars are pre-washed as they enter the building, so they're inside the building, it's being pre-washed. We've read through the conditions on the staff report, and we don't have any issues with the conditions that staff have. We do provide 34 stacking spaces in the queuing lanes. The outside lane is the cash lane where the booth is. So if you pull up and you don't have a membership, you would pay with card or cash there. And the inside lane is your membership lane. So members only would go through that. And you have your little sticker on your windshield that scans you and lets you through the gate. And they alternate depending upon who gets to each gate. This site is pretty much all building and parking lot right now. So our improvements will actually create more green space on this site, which is going to be beneficial to the city, along with the additional landscaping that we've provided. And then all our storm sewer will tie into the existing storm sewer for the development. They operate somewhere between 3 and 5 employees per shift on this site. That's just their typical operation. With that, I'll open any questions you might have.
Is this a car wash like a chain?
Mhm.
So if you have a membership here, you can use it elsewhere.
Correct.
So the hours are 8 to 8 or
On Sunday. Mhm.
and then what time on Monday through Saturday?
That 7 to 8.
7 to 8. So always close at 8. One of the things about this site is at your entrance, water is always ponded in that entrance. Is there a way we can get that fixed?
We can certainly look at that, yes.
Because, I think it would be great to kind of redo the curb and some of the pavement there on the approach as you come into the site to make sure it slopes and drains to the inlet that's right there to the west of here.
So that's water
Something-
standing actually in the entrance itself.
Irrigation goes off and, water coming off of the parking and the, and from the restaurant there, it always is ponding there and it tears up the pavement, out on Roan Ridge,
Okay.
there. So yeah, I'd like to see if something can be done since you're redoing the entrance there, why not take it a little bit further into the approach and fix that as well to get it all to slope to that inlet?
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't aware there was a ponding issue. We'll certainly take a look at
Yeah.
that.
I don't think I had any other questions on this. Anybody else for the applicant? Why are you looking at me?
Because I'm thinking that water condition, I'd be upset out just washing my car and come out to a puddle.
Yeah, a puddle sitting right there.
Agreed.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
So no, I have no questions. I was just thinking about what you brought up. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So at this time, let's open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 2.1 or 2.2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
We have no hands raised online.
Okay. So we'll close testimony. With the membership,
Mhm.
it's only this one. You don't have any affiliation with the Go Car Wash or?
No, so Club Car Wash is its own entity and has car washes throughout the Midwest. They're in Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Arkansas, opening branches in Texas, Tennessee. So, and again, like you said, when you buy a membership, you can literally wash at any of them. You have a membership for all of them. So if you're driving on vacation, you drive by one and clean your car and you see one, you can pull in and do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add at this time?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, we'll close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing else, we'll take a motion, please.
Did you want that conditioned?
I do.
Okay. Chair Corral, I move to approve docket item 2.1 without conditions and 2.2 with conditions, adding the note that the applicants to address the ponding at the approach and entrance of the site.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items 2.1 and 2.2 and adding the condition about addressing the ponding at the entrance to the site. So Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crawl,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passes.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ask you a quick question.
Sure.
What's your time frame that you think you'll be up and running?
So typically we'll get through the process. We'll be in front of council on the 22nd, I believe, is when we'll be there. It takes us about 30 days to put together our plans and then get through the permit process is a few months, and then it's 6 months to build it. So
Okay.
yeah, we can usually build those in 6 months. So next spring, be open and running.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're ready for, what are we on, docket item 3 now?
Docket item 3.
All right.
Case CD CPC 2025-86. A request to approve amendments to Chapter 88, the Zoning and Development Code, through amendments to Section 88-445 regarding digital signs in non-residential zoning districts.
Morning, Commissioners. Genevieve Kahn, City Planning and Development, and Andy.
Andrew Clark, City Planning and Development.
And docket item 3 is a text amendment to Chapter 88, the Zoning and Development Code, specifically looking at Section 88, 445 in the signage code, and then more specifically looking at digital monument signs. So just to give a little bit of background, as was discussed in the staff report, the city staff has received many requests from businesses wanting to transition their static menu boards to electronic menu boards so that they can, scroll items, or if they have a breakfast menu, lunch menu, dinner menu, they can change those without needing the static copy itself. And so this amendment will address those requests for change. So I'm going to go through what's currently permitted, and then we'll go through what's proposed. So currently, a menu board specifically is a subtype of monument sign, since it's usually ground mounted. And the code currently allows 2 per drive-through lane, max area of 30 square feet, setbacks 10 feet, max height 8. And then we get into the additional requirements, 88, 445, 08A, which then goes into these specific monument signs. Number 3 talks about what we do allow for electronic and digital monument signs. However, I'll note that they're only permitted in the B4 UR D and M zoning districts, so it's very limited where they're allowed. And as we know, there's drive-through and commercial restaurant uses all over B2, B3, B1, and so they're not permitted currently in the majority of places where we're seeing these businesses. So what is proposed is to change to permit these types of signs by right in the B2, B3, B4, UR, D, and M districts. So just adding on B2 and B3, and then requiring a special use permit in the O and B1 districts, since those are usually a little bit closer to residential neighborhoods. Many of the standards are generally staying the same, so no visual effects, no animation, flashing, lots of movements, requiring automatic brightness, so we don't have bright illumination spilling over off of the property. The orientation of the sign as to not shine into any residential properties, making sure they're screened. We don't need to see menu boards per se from the street. And so some things generally staying the same, we're just allowing it in a few more places. So just to show you, this is a lot of map, but these are the zoning districts where the digital monument menu board signs are currently permitted. And then if I scroll quickly, you can see where the red is some of those more commercial B2, B3 sections. So really it's along those heavily trafficked corridors, both in the Northland, you can see up by the airport in 152, and then south of the river, again, you can see it's these north-south commercial corridors. Just one example of a business that can comply with our standards. This is the Andy's Frozen Custard at 79th and Warnell. Another thing that we run into a lot with menu board signs is that because they are a monument sign, they're required to be on a base that is at least 75% of the width, as to not make it a pole sign. So this is currently compliant with the code. We have a proper base and static menu board sign. This is in a B2 zoning district. So this is what's currently allowed. This business is currently compliant. We are seeing a lot of businesses all over the city along these commercial corridors that have already transitioned their menu board signs and maybe other signs to the digital, either where they're not allowed or they did not receive permits. And as we know, compliance, really, we don't go looking for these things. They are brought to our attention. So this amendment will hopefully alleviate some of those businesses going ahead and doing those things.
And another case, Commissioner Arkin, I don't know if you were here, but there was a Taco Bell at Van Brunt and Linwood, Hardesty, Manual Cleaver, that very large intersection. They did ask for a rezoning to a B4 because Taco Bell has gone entirely to digital menu boards. Staff recommended approval of that rezoning in that case because the site uses were protected by the Boulevard and Parkway standards. But this text amendment would avoid the city upzoning properties just for a digital sign. Because as soon as we start upzoning, now we're getting more intense uses.
Question. So in that case, could we have not just given that location a variance instead of upzoning to them have that sign?
I mean,
So the Board of Zoning just cannot grant variances to the type of sign. So since an electronic,
The variance is the zoning, or not zoning, sorry, it's upzoning then.
right. So they did, the only option was to upzone to allow for a digital sign. The Board of Zoning Adjustment is not permitted to give a variance to sign type, only the size
Council.
location. Yeah.
and location.
Gotcha. Okay.
So just as we're still on that topic with the menu board, even in the standards, it says the image can't change more than once every hour. A lot of these menu boards are used for the actual ordering board as well. So they're changing and showing your order, what you ordered, and, you know, thanks for coming through and your total and all of that. It's changing. How do, how do we address the once every hour?
Yes, that is an excellent question. We talked about this internally. And so this amendment does cover all monument signs. We are specifically focusing on working with those businesses for their menu board signs. And so in number 5 of the red line, it does specify there for digital menu boards in a drive-through that the image can't change more than every 15 seconds. So really we're talking about multiple different signs here. If we have a menu board sign, it can scroll the 15 seconds. If it's a monument sign with instead of a changeable copy, that is the once every hour.
Yeah, so I guess, so the monument being like into a neighborhood or a commercial area
Or
something of that
flavor of
nature.
the day could change once an hour if that was the monument sign on the street.
Okay.
But number 5 addresses the menu board, which would allow every 15 seconds.
All right, I like that you're bringing that out separate. Yeah.
So because of that, we are also proposing to add a definition specifically for menu board sign. We don't already have one in the code. And so hopefully that will also get rid of any confusion between which ones can scroll every hour and which ones can change every 15 seconds.
So with the menu board, are you also putting a size and requirement or on that as well? Or does it need to meet
There's already requirements in the code for menu boards. It's the 30 square feet.
So this table won't change. It's just a matter of those additional requirements that are a little bit further down in the code. So the size, number.
okay?
They
Are
won't-
you adding in there so it also says the menu, it says menu board, okay.
Yes. With that, we're recommending approval, this amendment, and Andy or I can take any questions.
I saw a district O or zoning O. I don't recall seeing that before. What is that?
It's an office zoning district. I wouldn't say it's a very prevalent zoning district, but is a very, very low intensity commercial, as it states, office primarily zoning district.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission?
I have two. So 3E, this might just be my lack of knowledge, but my reading of it, so the digital sign shall not face any residential use. All digital signage will require a landscape plan to ensure any light is screened from all adjacent residentially used structures. To me, it just isn't uh, explicit about whether you could have it face so long as there's screening, or like even if there's screening, it can't face. And so if that could be clarified, because I think there are lots of instances in which so long as it's screened, it could face any direction perhaps. Is that the intent or is that not the intent?
The intent was early on contemplated on the lower intensity zoning districts requiring the special use permit. So then a site plan would be attached. One example that Metro North is a different zoning, but if we have an apartment complex right next to a drive-through facility, we just want to make sure, like Genevieve brought up in her presentation earlier, that that menu board is not facing their windows, or if it is, that
Now-
it's screened.
Okay, yeah.
We did have a open house last week. There are some negative sides to landscaping. If it's not maintained, it starts growing into the menu board and looking even worse. So we were wanting some feedback on the screening and landscaping.
Well, when I read screening, I was thinking that that meant on the other side of the lane. So if the menu board's on your left, that the screening would be on your right, and whether that's a fence, wall, landscaping, et cetera. So I personally, I like requiring screening, but not having something that says it can't face certain directions, just because I feel like that could be interpreted in a very rigid way.
Yep.
Potentially. And then the second thing, so you kind of added some color to it. You said that a special use permit necessitates a site plan, which you all like. I my initial reading of it was that I would prefer there not to be a special use permit and that I would prefer it be a staff determination. But is that something that you all feel puts too much of a burden on staff to make that decision in those instances? Because I don't think that that's, I mean, I'd like to make special use permits more rare, and I feel like that's something that staff could absolutely determine in an O or B1 zone, whether it's appropriate or not.
I think the B1, I do think of neighborhoods like West Plaza, where we have a very small site. And if somehow a drive-through is able to go in there, now we have a menu board in the middle of a digital menu board in the middle of a neighborhood. So that's where the special use permit concept or requirement came in.
And that's because you as staff wouldn't want to say, we're determining this is not the appropriate location. You feel that that's, the applicant would get too upset with you all.
I mean, as staff, we also love being able to, approve things and keep projects moving. But in these lower intensity districts, we also know that nearby neighbors sometimes like the opportunity to comment on an application, see what it looks like, and be part of the process. So we're trying to balance that sensitivity to the concerns of neighbors with, the ability to keep projects moving forward. And so that's why we've presented it as special use permit required for O and B1. But, welcome your thoughts about whether we've struck the right balance or not.
Yeah, I think, again, my preference would remain the same, that it's a staff decision. And then if and when there are unique circumstances, other people can weigh in. But I would think in general, as long as it's understood that the goals are not having an adverse effect on neighbors, then there's so many different solutions. If someone's putting a canopy or an awning or a fence on one side, if there's already if there's already significant screening. So that's something where I feel like we could easily see a handful of these if these businesses decide to be compliant and go through it the right way. Because as many people have mentioned, I think these are popping up everywhere. So if they go through the proper process, I feel like we could end up seeing a lot of these, and a lot of them will be kind of just very quick procedural. Yes, let's go ahead.
And there's a precedent, and then there's also some checks and balances. Drive-through facilities are not allowed in the O and B1 zoning district. But again, we never know what might happen. That's the use table today. The other precedent is for animal services a lot of it is allowed by right in like R80 zoning, more or more suburban, rural. But there is a stipulation that a site plan review is required. So it goes back to what you were saying, where staff still has the opportunity to make sure that the outdoor areas are screened from any neighbors.
Thank you.
I have a question. What happens if it's not a drive-through and they just have walk-up services and they want to have a digital sign?
Drive-through, the definition of a drive-through says being serviced within your vehicle. So they
Okay,
wouldn't be eligible. They wouldn't be eligible for a drive-through sign then.
So what kind of signage could they get if they want to do the digital?
They could, right now, nothing. Unless they're in the B4 zoning districts and above.
So a walk-up would be restricted to a static sign. That's what I'm hearing.
As of now.
I would assume, excuse me, a business like that would probably have a wall-mounted sign if you're walking up to the building, which this amendment does not address. There are future amendments coming through potentially. I don't know all the details of all of them.
Okay.
I just know we're not addressing any wall-mounted
So
signs at this time.
Stick to monument signs, okay.
You could also potentially have a sidewalk sign in that situation, which again would not be permitted to be digital. Trying to imagine what that would look like. So there are other sign types that might address that, that are not monument signs.
Okay. I know it's rare because we want to drive everywhere, but I was just thinking there are cases where a drive-through also has a walk-up window. I was thinking of the Chinese place on Linwood. They have a walk-up and drive-through.
And as of right now, in 44508C, it states that electronic, digital, or motorized wall signage is not permitted. It's a different day, Commissioner Beasley.
Okay. I'll wait for that to come through.
Any other questions for city staff? All right, let's open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item, what are we on, 3?
3.
Please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Ross Fretz Law Firm with offices located at 4510. I did submit some photos to Genevieve who can pull them up for you, and I'll demonstrate the inconsistencies right now. I am representing a McDonald's that wants to go in at the corner, the northwest corner of Berry Road in Indiana. My client currently has it under a contract with McDonald's to sell for McDonald's to construct there. But along with the construction plans, the issue arose regarding the digital menu board sign. I don't really call a menu board sign a sign per se, because it's really not trying to attract people as they're driving by. It's really going up to and you can't see the specifics on the sign until you get up to the sign. But regardless, Genevieve and Andy have both stated this is the way it's defined in the code. So we're really trying to fix an unfairness that currently exists in the zoning and development code. That was Andy and Genevieve stated that some districts allow digital signs like this, digital menu board signs, others do not. So the first picture I have in front of you is the McDonald's. And this is the one on the right is McDonald's at North Green Hills and Northwest Berry Road. It's in a B3 zoning district. Chairman Crowell is familiar with that. It has the digital sign. What we were told, or what I was told is, oh, they didn't get a permit for the sign. Nobody is going after these companies to enforce the code. It arose because McDonald's wants assurance that it can get a like digital menu board sign at its new location. The one on the left-hand side is the McDonald's at Metro North Mall. It is in a UR zoning district, so it's permitted. And then the next slide. is this shows the Burger King at Northeast Berry in Indiana. Again, it's got a digital menu board sign. It's in a B32 zoning district. I've seen the plans on that. I see where there's a line depicting those, but it doesn't specifically call them out. And then Whataburger at Metro North is in the UR zoning district, and they have a digital menu board sign. It really seems to me right now it's hamburger places that have the digital signs, but certainly it is a wave of the future. I imagine Andy's would want that if that opportunity arises. So we're here just to support the amendment moving forward and to get the city to see the reality of the new signage in regards to menu board signs.
Yeah.
That's all I have. We would encourage you to pass it.
Can you keep that up, Genevieve? And scroll back to like the first pictures. So this, I think this is what you're talking about, Commissioner Enders here. We have the screening back behind the menu board or even on the opposite side of the drive-through with the screening there.
Well, my concern if I lived in a residential area that abutted a property like this would be the light from the menu board. And so it would be more from our vantage point and just ensuring that if we're in a car to the right of us, there was
Yeah.
some sort of screening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in these cases, it's all commercial surrounding this. There is no residential.
Yeah. Okay.
It is important to note, especially the image on the left is a little more confusing because that was a menu board that was converted to digital at some point. But we discussed the 75% base. The one on the right, the sign contractor applied for sign permits for the wall signs and everything, the monument signs, but they left out any permits for the digital drive-through signs. So that's what this text amendment is trying to address, is that there's an even playing field and the regulations are easy to understand.
Can you scroll down to the additional pictures she has?
Same with the Burger King. They did the same thing.
So the top two, to me, don't look like monument. They're free hanging. Wasn't anything under them.
There's a base. You can see that base. It may not be the 75%.
That looks like a pole to me.
That's why we don't allow those.
A little bit more of a base, but
And then the lower ones, the top one you said was Burger King. What is that obstruction in front of it?
no, that's the base to the sign.
That whole thing is a base?
Yes. That's what the sign is sitting on.
Okay, I don't like that one either.
And it also appears to be over 30 square feet.
Okay, it is big.
Yes.
Okay.
So they could have gone through and they could seek a variance for an oversized drive-through menu board.
Yeah, personally, from a, business standpoint, I feel as though often these types of things, start with national brands, but smaller local brands end up adopting a lot of these practices. And whether you're in the business of hamburgers or coffee, prices have changed drastically, and you might have your providers change your price 4 times in 6 months. And so you need to be able to update prices. And we put local businesses, small businesses at a disadvantage if we make it difficult for them to have to get permitting for these types of things, because it's often, it's become only in the last probably 4 or 5 years, more expensive to not have a digital sign, because it is cheaper to get a couple $100 screen that you can update regularly as opposed to spending $100 or $200 to update your physical sign on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I just on top of that too, stopped at a couple places last week. They didn't have a person actually doing the order. It was all AI taking the order. That's coming as well.
The wave of the future,
Yes.
as much as I try to fight AI.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, when you go to Whataburger, you get your order pushed back to you so you can clarify it. Even with McDonald's,
Yeah.
that's not a sign. that is simply an order pad that you would confirm, whether it was written or it was digital.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
we ask you to approve this.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners, staff. My name is Tiffany Moore. I live at 6581 Rock Hill Road. I am the 6th District Representative for the Neighborhood Advisory Council. I'm going to read my statement and then I'm going to address a few of the questions. I think there's a lot of room for compromise here. The sign industry has advocated for modern sign technologies for over a decade. The Neighborhood Advisory Council has long been a participant in the working group convened by the city to research and make recommendations on signage policy that fully validates impacts to community character, traffic safety, and the environment. That data has not changed. The staff report for this case speaks directly to the use of digital menu board signs and drive-throughs. The text amendment itself opens the door to digital monument signs of all types, including those that face public streets, and expand digital use into new zoning categories by special use permit. Please note that only menu boards are restricted from facing a public street in the proposed amendments. There are a number of reasons to consider expanding digital technology to include certain menu boards. This amendment should be written more narrowly to address that application. Broadly expanding the use of digital technology to all monument signs, adding the burden of special use permits, and increasing the enforcement obligation of the city, which is complaint-based, however, is not in the best interest of the public. So that was my original statement, and I want to make a few additional comments that I think are relevant to the questions asked by commissioners and then the testimony provided by previous testimony. Special use permits include public engagement, and I think that was touched on before. Shifting the application or approval process to staff would eliminate the opportunity for that engagement with the public. The Andy's Custard example given on Warnell Road actually abuts residential property. In fact, they tore a couple of houses down for their parking lot, and so it reaches all the way through to a fully residential street. They do have the digital monument signs. The menu board category, I think, perhaps needs to be established on its own to separate it, fully separate it from monument signs. Within that category, we could make sure that digital menu boards and drive-throughs are consistent across all zoning categories. We could address the need for a digital walk-up, like a wall sign option, because Commissioner Enders is correct in that this is very applicable to food changes and pricing changes. That wall sign would need to be facing away from a residential area. So I feel like what we've identified is that the use of digital menu boards is bigger than it has ever been before. We never had this defined. Whether it's a monument sign or a pole sign, whether it's a conversion, whether it's facing a public street or residential, whether it's in B1 or B2, is deserving of consistent application that is trending with modern applications. That is wholly separate from monument signs that are at every shopping center, every neighborhood, every church, every school, along and in residential commercial districts like B1. My recommendation is that before this goes to neighborhood planning and development, we sit down with planning and try and separate these two needs, and this go forward focused on making a consistent menu board policy that is responsive to industry, protective of residential property, but moves the city forward in this particular category. Thank you.
Okay, so I just understand you're saying the addition of the digital mini board for drive-throughs or drive-ins is not sufficient?
But the way the text amendment is written, it's also allowing digital opportunities for all monument signs in this category, and adding the option for digital into B1 and O by special use permit. That's a very broad expansion of the use of digital technology that will impact traffic safety. It will impact illumination on long business corridors, particularly B1. Because again, it would pick up churches, it would pick up schools, it would pick up apartment complexes, it would pick up shopping centers. That's a lot of monument signs.
Yeah, I think, just again, the way a lot of it's written, it's just, yeah, it's allowing that, but it still has the once every hour and complies with all the other requirements that are down here.
The
But-
previous research that we have been asked to represent, and we will do that, demonstrates that that kind of illumination, even with those changes, at the frequency that occurs on some of our commercial districts, is a huge impact on traffic safety.
Okay.
But the menu board issue is deserving of separate consideration. And with most of what's written here, perhaps the addition of how we might manage a wall-mounted version for walk-up windows that is different and not in opposition of moving that forward. Blending it into the monument sign category is going to bring a lot of baggage.
Yeah, I guess just in my opinion, seeing some of those, they're already a monument sign that's there now that's static, or it's a painted one, and they're just converting it out to a,
Correct. And that's
digital
and
one.
that kind of conversion along streets is something that we have long opposed, with very good data about the impact to all of the things I listed. And that is only getting more significant with distracted driving.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I guess, is that not, I'm looking at the change in text, is that not covered under, I mean, it's saying that you can't change light intensity.
So my interpretation, because the way I'm hearing it, I fully agree. So everything that's under 3, in essence,
Yep.
Maybe it should be under 5, specific to digital menu boards, because that's kind of what Ms. Jensen brought up as issues that we're facing continually. I personally don't want to drive down Kansas City roads and have lots of digital monument signs, even if they're existing signs that are being converted. I don't like the look of it personally. I just don't like the aesthetics of it, and I'm sure that it's not as safe. So, I mean, I like that a lot, and I have only been thinking in the context of we're trying to solve a menu board issue. So if we can be more specific, that would be my preference, and to leave monument signs as perhaps menu board signs can be monument signs, but if we can make the modifications specific to just menu board signs, that would be my preference.
And not expand the area to which digital sign could be placed.
I think the best example for me, and this might not even be a great one, but Warnell, in between where Andy's is, in between 85th and 75th maybe, I think there are a handful of old grandfathered in monument signs, and that's a place where I could see it immediately becoming just covered with digital signs left and right. And I don't think that's the intent of what we're trying to solve. I think we're trying to solve a very real problem that is a good solution for a lot of businesses and consumers, that digital signs are superior in a lot of ways, especially when you're putting a lot of information that can change regularly. However, the name of a business at the front of a shopping center, or to your point, at the front of a neighborhood, as someone had mentioned, that doesn't need to change ever. So I would also prefer that we try to be more specific if possible.
That was a challenge for staff, is that the drive-through menu, the menu board is a child of the monument sign, the way the code is written, which I think is what you are seeing.
Yeah. And so I think that, this is even maybe more lenient than I had realized. And so all of the red line modifications, if they were to just be housed under
Menu
paragraph
board.
5,
Mhm.
then, and we don't need to necessarily change things that already exist in 3, but perhaps all of this gets repeated in 5 and just gets restated in 5 to be more specific. I think it seems like that would solve most of the issues that we're running into.
You would be supportive of digital menu board signs only, but other types of monument signs, not digital.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
I guess I'm the odd one out because I thought that was all we were talking about was the menus.
Well, yeah, but the way it's written, and that's what I was confused. The way it's written, it's under there for a full monument sign. So any monument sign could have been digital with the rewrite. So like, driving down the street, there'd
I'm
be,
getting you.
yeah.
I'm not saying nothing, but I'm getting you. I'm thinking I would have argued that though, because when the presentation was made, Genevieve specifically pointed that it's categorized as monument, but we're only looking at menus. I didn't hear any presentation on changing true monument signs to digital.
I don't think they were trying to. I think it's just the way it's written. So they're just moving it down.
Mr. Chairman, may I make just
Sure.
a short comment? So I agree, if that's what you want to do, you leave 3 as written, pointing out that it's already digital and electronic signs are permitted in the B4 UR, D, and M. So I really would like you to leave that alone so that doesn't change for people. But then underneath 5, you repeat those same things with all of the stuff they have outlined.
For
And I
B2
think
and
that
B3.
would work. We are under time constraints because we're trying to close a sale on a piece of property. So I need to get this moved forward.
Yeah, I'm personally, comfortable with moving forward as we just kind of outlined if staff is.
Including the non-requirement of SUP.
Yeah, I mean, I would perhaps in my motion encourage staff to, consider in between now and council if O and B1 menu board signs require an SUP or not. If they want to leave it that way, they could, but if they decide that it's something they can
Yeah,
handle, they can.
I don't think it's needed.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak from the public on this?
There are no other hands raised online.
Okay, so we'll close public testimony then. Any further discussion? I think the SUP needs to remain in there. That's just,
Okay.
and it's simply because, as stated before, there needs to be, sometimes the public doesn't get the notice that a business has come in, applied for something. They don't know that something's happening, and then all of a sudden it's there.
I understand.
The SUP provides an opportunity for a notice to be sent out by the applicant so that neighbors around that particular business or whatever have an opportunity to see that and understand what's going on next door.
I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
fully understand
Yeah.
that perspective. I would say that if it's screened appropriately, in theory, you would never know that you wouldn't need to know because it doesn't
I get
affect
that.
you.
I get it. Yeah.
Just wants to.
I won't fight
There's
you
a
on
big
it.
if on
I
that
won't fight you on it.
sometimes.
All right, are you ready for a motion?
If there's no further discussion,
Chair Krell, I move to approve docket item 3, noting that the changes that were discussed today, that all red lines to this chapter be put under paragraph 5 and that paragraph 3 remain unchanged.
Second.
May we also have you add the motion to add the definition of menu board sign?
Modifying the motion to add that we add the definition for a digital menu board sign.
Thank you.
I'll second now. Okay.
okay, looks like we've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 3, but modifying the red lines within as being requested such that we put a definition on menu boards and then everything that's stated or redlined in 88-445-08A3 is moved down to number 5. That work? And I liked your to use Andy's. I'm assuming that
Never been.
of you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Orkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Prowl,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
It looks like the motion passes then. Thank you. Appreciate the testimony and the discussion as well.
Before they get up. This is, Andy's not really going anywhere, but he has transferred to the project administration division. And so you won't be seeing him quite as much. This is his last case before you all. So just wanted to give you all, let you all know that, he's still in City Hall.
What is that? What is the project administration division? Is this new? Or is it, what is that?
This is new. This is a division that Mario had started creating, and Kyle is overseeing that division and doing some additional hiring and organization. So they'll be handling economic development related cases, special projects. So yeah, Andy is a development analyst 3.
Development specialist 3.
Specialist
They
3.
took away my planner label. So,
He's still a planner
I'm
though.
still a planner.
Upcoming case is the last one, or the last case was the last one?
This case.
Oh,
was the
get
last
ready.
one.
And so your hearings
Ah.
could be much shorter since I will not be here all the time.
Yeah, okay. Well, congratulations and good luck. We certainly will miss you here. Seeing you. I know I will.
Well, I'll miss all of you, and thank you for helping me learn and become better as a person and professional.
Okay, but come back and visit.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe we will see him for a future case, but not as regularly. So docket item number 4 is case CD CPC 2025-85, a request to approve amendments to Chapter 88, the Zoning and Development Code by amending Section 88-420-16 regarding alternative compliance parking plans.
Before we get started, has Betsy been able to join us yet?
I do not see her online.
Can somebody reach out to her to see if she can join us
Sure.
for that other consent agenda item while we're working on this case?
Do you want me to go ahead and get started or wait a couple minutes?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to go ahead and get started or wait a couple minutes?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
We'll address that after this one's over.
Okay. So as was just mentioned, this is CPC 2025-85, and this is for a text amendment to Section 88-420-16. And this is, it was already introduced on June 26th by Councilman Rogers of the 2nd District. So this is just that ordinance number. And then the Zoning and Development Code does have 9 alternatives should an applicant need to work with city staff to meet the parking standards in the Zoning and Development Code. These are the 9 authorized alternatives they're allowed to use. The one we're focusing on today is gravel parking. And so this is the entirety of the changes, but since there are so many changes, I did split it up into smaller slides. And so the first change, we are allowing gravel vehicular use areas permitted in all M districts that have a minimum lot size of 2 acres. And so that's a change from only allowing them in districts M3 and M4.
While we're on that one, could you explain the 2-acre cutoff or threshold?
So we are, when we were writing up the text amendment, we noticed that there were quite a few properties in an M district that varied from, was it 1 acre, 0.5 acres, all the way up to 40 acres. The minimum lot size of 2 acres would create a good size limit to add to the standards for the rest of the section.
We've got a lot of M1 in places where you wouldn't necessarily expect it.
Yeah.
Typically in smaller, like I think the Quick Trip on Warnell Road, 72nd Warnell is zoned M1, if I remember correctly. So we've got like small M1 lots in more commercial residential districts where you wouldn't really want a lot of gravel.
Okay, so it's because there was a theme that the smaller M1 lots were in residential or commercial areas. Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next 2 changes, the number 2, gravel is prohibited within 25 feet of public right-of-way. That just aligns with the rest of our code where we don't allow it within 25 feet of a public right-of-way. And then number 3, all gravel areas situated on a lot with side or rear property lines contiguous with property in an R or D district must be screened. We are doing this if the M district does border an R or D district, this will add a buffer to that gravel parking area. And then number 4, we are adding just some clarification showing that it cannot be used for the parking or storage of wrecked, salvaged, or dismantled or inoperable vehicles. And then the change to number 5 is just finishing out that slope. It was currently 4-2 blank. So now we've added 4-1. So that's more of a correction on our end. I did already mention this, but staff is recommending approval. We did propose this text amendment just to due to an ongoing compliance effort. This change would allow properties that are working with the city to come into compliance. This gives them a path forward instead of just outright not allowing the gravel areas. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners, the city staff?
Trying to think through different situations in which this will come into effect. And so I used to office in a spot in the crossroads where there was a gravel lot that was probably just under 2 acres, and it was not screened, but the general consensus of people in the neighborhood was that the neighborhood was dirty because of that one lot, because the wind would just pick up and swirl and go crazy. I imagine the screening is intended for dust as opposed to just the visual nature of it. And so is there a way to determine, so right now there's a 25-foot buffer to the street, which creates some buffer. The way that the screening language was written, are there situations in which we could still run into a situation that it's in a relatively commercial area or highly trafficked area and the screening would be insufficient because, if it's a large enough area, so let's say 2.2 acres, and therefore like wind could pick up, it would still end up having like a huge adverse effect. Is there anything else that should be added or contemplated to prevent that from happening? Or have there been issues that brought this text amendment up?
I mean, the issues that brought this text amendment up, and Mr. Duddy, if you want to also speak to this, are really from the property owner business end of this. And we're trying to, again, strike the balance between providing a path forward and protecting any potential neighbors of these types of locations. I mean, yes, I think the buffer is intended to do both of those things, provide some visual screening, but also to try to assist with dust control, which when you have a lot of gravel, I don't know if it's ever possible to be perfect on that.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anything, Jim, that you would want to add to that.
No, well, I would simply add, it's basically to allow for a differentiation between some areas where they're taking advantage of a situation and they're using this for storage of wrecked and damaged vehicles, which is leading to an ecological issue and also a blight issue. By the restriction of not being able to park the dismantled wrecked vehicles will allow us to alleviate that, but still allow where we have very viable situations where businesses are following the law or what the proposed ordinance would be of actually storing viable vehicles for profit, but also to keep them in an area where the M zone districts, where it's away from the general commercial areas that we talked about earlier. So it sets up a differentiation between the two situations.
Question, for for 4, where we add the gravel surface may not be used for the parking, storage, all that, is there a reason we're not creating a new line for that? I just might get confused, or, confuse people because it says it in the same line as intended for the public. So the public's like, well, I can't park or store things on there, but the person that owns it can. So wouldn't it just be a separate line item saying you can't do any of that, direct vehicles on there? If that, or storage? Because it's saying that it's saying that it's not intended for the public. But if I owned a lot, I would say, well, I'm not part of the public, and this is in conjunction with that same line item 4, so I should be able to park or put storage on there because I'm not part of the public.
I would have to look at what you're referring to.
I think you're just looking to separate, there's two
Yeah.
sentences there, separate them up in a different number.
Yeah, just
So
to,
you'd have item 7, gravel surfacing may not be used.
yes, exactly. I just am concerned that someone would say, well, I'm not part of the public and this is part of that line, so.
And it's up on the screen now.
I see, I'm looking at it here all.
So you keep mentioning M1 zoning, right? I'm thinking of a lot in our neighborhood on the corner of 9th and Chestnut. I'm pretty sure that's not M1. And I believe they have gravel on that lot and they constructed a new building. I'm not sure the size, but how would that fit into this if it's not zoned M1?
In all probability, if it's a B zone district, it would be in B zone district or R zone district, it would be parking surface.
Okay.
Zone districts.
I'm good.
Okay.
So how
I'll
would
be
so you got 25 feet off the public road and 10 feet off the property line. Is that supposed to be paved?
It just can't be gravel. You can't have the gravel go all the way up to your property line.
Or is that grass? It says, well, gravel's prohibited
Mhm.
25 feet of public right of way or 10 feet from the property line. So you're saying the gravel can go up to 10 feet to the property line and then it's grass?
A landscape buffer, or, I mean, if
Could be
We do
paved, I mean, it just
paved as
can't be
well.
gravel.
Yeah, I don't want to create extra, barriers that aren't needed. 3 feet for a visual screen, or if it's intended for dust, does not seem like it would do a lot. But again, if there's not really an issue, I know like a lot of the crossroads has M zoning, and so that's why I think why it exists. And I think the city paid to pave this private person's lot because it was such a issue. This was like 5 years ago or something, or no, it was longer. And so if it's not an issue because these M districts that are 2 acres and greater aren't in problematic areas, then I don't want to make this more difficult. But I would think that 3 feet would be insufficient for a 2-acre gravel lot.
Well, for the landscape buffer, it's 3 feet in height after the first growing season. So that's the minimum for the buffer,
Yeah,
and
so you
it's
could
10
plant
feet.
shrubs, right?
Mhm.
So you could
Yeah.
plant shrubs and they are 3 feet after the first growing season and never going to get beyond 4 feet or 5 feet. That, but again, if you all have not experienced an issue with it, then that's totally fine.
Commissioner Enders, 88-4-2015 gravel specifies gravels, what type gravel you can use. And if the gravel is required to be at least not more than 2 inches in diameter and shall not contain dirt, sticks, construction debris, or other foreign material, sand, rock, dust, or other similar materials less than 1/8 inch in a diameter, and that is not permitted, but it shall be included in measurement for minimum gravel depth. If the gravel depth is correct and the size of the gravel is enforced, that should dramatically reduce the dust issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that breaks down over time, so you get dust over time. So the only other thing you do is ask for recycled asphalt as a alternative to the gravel, or you have to oil it. time to time.
What development compliance looks for is application of new gravel.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? All right, let's open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody who'd like to speak regarding docket item number 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Good morning. It's my day for text amendments, I guess. I'm going to give you a little, Patricia Jensen with the Ross Fretz Law Firm with offices located at 4510 Bellevue. I'm going to give you a little bit more color as to how this came up. About a year ago, and I've got some slides to show you, so if you pull that one up, along 40 Highway, I represented a client, and I believe they're online, Sarah. It would be Stevie Westhead, Andrew Fisher, Henry Weiler. If they're online, you guys should raise your hand if you want to talk.
Yeah, they haven't raised their hand.
Okay. Well, about a year ago now, you all rezoned this property to accommodate what their current business is, which is they store trailers out there. They're not wrecked or damaged or anything like that. And I'm going to show you before and after pictures of how they cleaned up the site. The city, shortly after that, was after an individual along 40 Highway who was really operating a junkyard. I believe you guys can testify to that. That individual made like 100 complaints to the city about all the businesses along 40 Highway. So my clients were subsequently cited for not having their trailers on asphalt surfaces. They own large acreages out here, as you can see. That is right adjacent to the Blue River. You do not want hundreds of gallons of stormwater going down into the Blue River. So the city's been working with us since to resolve that. That's the amendment you see in front of us. And then if you would switch to the next page, here is pictures of their properties, and the top is before they acquired it, and the bottom one is after they acquired it. So you can see how they cleaned up their site after we rezoned that property. The next picture is another picture of before and after. I believe staff's written a good amendment here, and we would really encourage you to move forward with it. Again, everything in my world is about closing deadlines, so that's why Councilman Rogers introduced that for us. We've got a closing deadline at the end of July, which we need to move forward with. So I can answer any other questions,
Okay.
but we would encourage you to approve it.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commissioner? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning again, Tiffany Moore, 6581 Rock Hill. This is not an amendment I had planned to speak on, but I always like to take the opportunity to support things when I can. This one seems like a good compromise, addressing the issues that Ms. Jensen brought up, but also growing up in the country, I fully understand the issue with gravel dust and how that can be problematic. And so those buffers, I think, are really well stated. Another thing that hasn't come up is the physical damage that gravel does to concrete and asphalt public streets and sidewalks if it is trafficked. So having that on parking lots that are used by the public in the city limits is a maintenance issue for the city. So it looks like there's good thought about how this is used within city limits in those M zoning areas. And so I would support having this move forward as written. With that adjustment to having those two lines separated, I think is wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised online.
They didn't raise their hands?
They didn't raise
Okay.
their hands.
All right.
Patricia told them to, and they didn't follow her instructions. So
All right, so we'll close public testimony then and speak amongst the commission. Anything else we need to kind of vet out on this or discuss? All right, I'll take a motion then.
Could you put up thank you. Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 4, amending paragraph 4 so that it is 2 separate paragraphs. Just creating a new break at the end of the first sentence.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item 4, which is modifying the gravel parking, but also adding, so it would have a 7th condition in there to separate the 2 sentences of number 4. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passes then. Thank you very much.
So we got Betsy Lynch's voicemail and left a message, but have not talked to her. So, and she's not online. Would you like to continue C3?
Not really. I'd really like to get it approved. Yeah, because another
Is it something?
2-week delay on that project. Obviously, they're just trying to sell their units and need the final plat.
Sarah, is it something that you think that, given the type of approval that it is, that it's something that's okay for Kobe to vote on?
I didn't ask for the details, but I would say no. I mean, I think if we.
Yeah, our
get
company's
something-
working on the project
Yeah,
itself.
so that
I would
be-
I would ask the other question, since our number has been lessened, even not having 8 and having 7, do 3 of us would not constitute a quorum at all?
Your rules and regulations state that 4 is a quorum.
Let me check.
It's on.
Does anyone is Hasek? I think you could hop on for 5 minutes.
Maybe.
If you got his number, can everybody wait like 5 minutes to see if we can get one of our other commissioners? I mean, this is.
I want to try Luis. I'll look for Hasek.
I don't have either one of those numbers.
I can text him.
You will, okay.
Do you have Matt's too? Because I thought it'd be in his email,
Let me look.
but it wasn't there. Not the last one I saw.
Can we,
I do.
let's just take like a 10-minute break to see if we can get a hold of one of them and then come back after that. So it's,
We do 5 just in case they respond right away.
sure. I was just looking at making the clock look even,
Okay.
you know.
I texted them that we have 1 consent item, and could they join virtually sometime in the next 30 minutes is what I've asked each of them, just in case they can't get to a computer right away. So hopefully we hear back in 5 minutes.
Okay, so you want to sit here and wait for 5 minutes to see before we take a break? We can do that and have dead air.
Yeah, up to you. Either way is fine with me.
I'd rather take the little bit of a break and then come back at 10:45 with an answer, whether we move forward with that docket item or conclude the meeting. So it's 10:35-ish right now. We'll come back at 10:45.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming back from our meeting here. We tried to get a hold of another commissioner to help fill in to give us a quorum for this consent agenda item C3. We were not successful. So it looks like we need to continue that one to the next meeting. So I need a motion for that.
Chair Crowley, I move to continue consent docket item C3 to the next CPC meeting.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for continuance of docket item C3 to the July 16th meeting. Margaret, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Arkin,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
No.
Enders.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes 3-1. Okay, so that's end of our docketed items. Is there anything to bring before the commission?
Sure, just general updates about text amendments because we have a number of text amendments that are pending in addition to the two that you heard today. We've been working on text amendments around large format uses. So those are data centers, distribution facilities that are 300,000 square feet or larger in size. You had an overview about these amendments couple of months ago. And this is also on the city's Speakeasy platform. If you all would like to see what's being proposed or see what kind of comments we're getting, it's available on Speakeasy. We intend to have that on your docket at your next meeting, July 16th. We've had at least one comment from a stakeholder about asking us to push that further into the future so that they can have an opportunity to suggest changes or we can make some amendments before they come before you. We would ask that we intend to have it on the docket and would like for you to at least open the public hearing to see if there are other comments from the public about that topic. And then kind of up to you if you'd like to continue that public hearing or you would like to move it forward. But we would at least like to start the public hearing and hear from the interested parties at your next meeting. And then we have a number of other future text amendments that we are currently working on. Something that would not come before you, but I just wanted to flag because it's development related, is that we are advancing amendments to Chapter 27 fences just to assist, it's coming to us formally for enforcement. We're working on amendments related to used car lots that the mayor introduced from the floor last week. Urban agriculture is something we're working on, more signs. And then Wilson and Company is working with us on the large format uses, and they're also working with us on parking amendments. So sometime probably September-ish, you might have parking in front of you as well.
Okay. You guys are
Lots of
working on a lot
exciting-
of stuff.
Lots
Yeah.
of text amendments going on.
Good. All right.
And Andy will be joining us while Margaret is on maternity leave. Assisting us with this meeting. And I think that's all the announcements. Am I missing anything? Okay. And we have parking passes for you.
Perfect. All right, thank you for that. So if there's nothing else before the commission, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you.